Doug, you good? Your phone's talking to you.
Call the special meeting of the Selma Planning Commission to order at 6:04 PM. It's in the Selma City Council Chambers, 1710 Tucker Street. Teleconference phone number 301-715-8592. Webinar ID 883-1804-9306. When on the phone, if you wish to address the commission during the public comment portion of the agenda, press star 9 to raise your hand and we will select you from the meeting queue. Press star 6 to unmute and mute yourself. Roll call. Oh no, flag salute.
Ready, salute? I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Commissioner Corey is running a little late. Commissioner Franco is absent today. Commissioner Garcia.
Here.
Commissioner Stanridge. Commissioner Kessler.
Here.
Chair Salas.
Here. Potential conflicts of interest. Any commissioner who has a potential conflict of interest may now identify the item and recuse themselves from discussing and voting on the matter. Does anyone have any conflict of interest? Okay, none. Oral communication. At this time, any member of the public may address the commission regarding any item over which the commission has jurisdiction. No action or discussion will be taken on any item not on the agenda. Issues raised will be referred to the chairperson for review. Members of the public shall limit their remarks to 3 minutes. Does anyone have any oral communication at this time? They can come forward to the podium. Is there anyone online?
For all callers on the line, star 9 to raise your virtual hand, star 6 to unmute yourself. Chair Salas, I don't see anyone either.
No oral communication. The first item on the agenda is a public hearing regarding conditional use permit plan 24-37 to consider a resolution recommending that the Planning Commission approve an amendment to an existing conditional use permit to allow the construction of a proposed mini mart and gas station located at 11010 East Mountain View Avenue, Selma, California, APN 393-07402. This project will also include the approval of a notice of exemption. Staff report, please.
Chair Salas and fellow commissioners, my name is Lupe Macias, Assistant Planner with the City of Selma. We presented tonight the conditional use permit plan 2437. All right, actually prepares the slides here. So as I mentioned, we have amended conditional use permit. The new plan number 2437, they're going to be constructing a 3,800 square foot mini mart gas station with 6 pumps, a new canopy, and this also has a notice of exemption, APN 393-07402. Slide, please. Next slide gives a aerial location of the project. As you can see, it's off of Mountain View, Golden State Boulevard. Next slide, please. Little historical context, this applicant originally applied for a CUP to sell beer, wine, and distilled spirits, type 21 alcoholic beverage license, and to construct and operate a commercial retail and gas station mini mart. The commercial, the zoning for it is regional commercial. Commercial retail and restaurants are by right uses, again with the CUP required for auto service stations and the establishment of alcohol beverage sales. The original application included the two phases. First phase being a 7,800 square foot commercial building where they were anticipating 2 tenants. Also a 4,800 square foot gas station and mini mart with 6 pumps and 12 fueling stations, in addition to a 3,000 square foot fast food restaurant with the drive-through. As part of that project, they also had a second phase, which included a 3,500 square foot single-story commercial retail building. This project was previously approved as a notice of exemption, that which falls under CCR 15332, Class 32 infill development projects. Next slide, please. Next slide is showing the original approved site plan, just to get a visual of it. Next slide. So before you today, the applicant is requesting to amend that previously approved conditional use permit and construct and operate the previously approved 7,800 square foot commercial retail. And what they're proposing is to have a 3,800 square foot gas station and mini mart with 6 pumps and a new canopy. What they will be doing is converting the existing wooden building to the mini mart. And the existing building that is included behind that will undergo exterior modifications to align its design and appearance with the facade of the new gas station. The existing building that sits behind the proposed one is going to be maintenance in use. It's going to be a phased approach, and they will use it right now as temporary storage. Next slide, please. Here you have the site plan of the location. I'll just point out on the slide here, you can see this existing building that they'll be using for storage, but that will be improved to match the mini mart that's here located just south of the main building. We got the canopy here and a canopy down here as well. Down here's Mountain View, and on the side here's we got Golden State Avenue just for visual. Part of the proposal as well, the existing approved one had existing underground storage tanks here, and the applicant is proposing above ground, so they have them located there on the site plan. As part of the recommendation, staff is recommending that they keep those undergrounded, and we'll leave that up for discussion coming up here. Next slide, please. For CEQA compliance, this project is pursuant to Section 15301 California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA guidelines, because it is a project that is consisting of operation of existing facilities involving negligible or expansion of use beyond the previously existing and Section 15332, because the project development meets the qualification to be classified as an infill development. Slide, please. And with that, staff is recommending to the Planning Commission to approve the conditional use permit plan 2437 as presented and a notice of exemption in compliance with CEQA. And I'll be available, myself and Jerome, for any questions.
This is a public hearing item. So at this time, during the public hearing, I will first ask for staff's comments and reports on the items being discussed. After staff's presentation, I will then open the hearing to public testimony. I will then close the public hearing, at which time no member of the public shall address the commission unless specifically asked by a member of the commission through the chair. The Planning Commission will then discuss the matter among themselves and take action on the item being considered. At this time, I'll open the public hearing to public testimony. Anyone has anything for or against this item, they can come forward and address the commission.
Name is Mario Balmonte, residing at 5379 North Aurora Avenue, Fresno. And everything that you did on the application, recommendation, and everything is okay with the property owner. The thing that we really need to work with is the storage tank. We need to get this above tank because the above tank is more cheaper than the underground. I think this has been approved when he requested last year. And did you?
Can you please state your name?
My name is Parminder Singh from Kingsburg. We have last time, same question. At that time, council says only allow if they are a truck stop selling diesel is okay to above ground, or only gasoline is not allowed city. Now, we have little bit change to separate gas, gas diesel and the car gasoline, both. And my neighbor cross street, I think they are 2 years ago, they are in the city of Selma. They approve above ground. He has underground, he make above ground tanks for the gasoline. That's why I asking the same comparative, same city. I need to be, I can stay comparative or that's I asking little changing. That's I just say, please be equal to everyone. If he has above ground, I need to be above ground.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Anyone online?
Chair Salas, there's no one in the line.
At this time, we will close the public hearing portion of this item and bring it to the commission for discussion. So,
I'm just wondering why staff is recommending underground as opposed to above ground.
Can I make a couple clarifications
Okay.
with regards to some of the things the applicant said? Excuse me. First, there were no prior approvals made. All the commission did was extend the prior conditional use permit as it was approved previously, which included below ground tanks.
Okay.
I think from staff's point of view with regard to the tanks, with this site specifically, we previously approved below ground tanks. I think there's an aesthetic issue with below ground tanks is preferred. I think if you go to most gas stations, you don't see above ground tanks, especially in town. We've seen, you know, a new gas station built on Second Street. They have no above ground tanks. With a matter of construction costs and other things like that, I can understand the applicant's concern regarding costs, which is why they're amending the project, right? They're already amending the project once. They were going to propose new structures from the start, and now they're revising and using the existing buildings on site. So from staff's point of view, you know, we've previously approved below ground tanks on this site. I think you heard it was strictly just a cost issue. I think staff's looking at it from as much as aesthetic and safety issue as anything. I mean, this area did have a larger project approved around it, Selma Crossings, which was a large regional commercial project. So just because it's down at, you know, Mountain View, I don't think aesthetics should be forgotten for any of the projects that are technically within the city limits. And so from staff's point of view, it's as much of an aesthetics issue as a land use safety issue. Obviously, I think there's some concern with below ground tanks causing certain issues with soil contamination. And I don't think that's as much of an issue with current construction standards. I think maybe it was more of an issue maybe in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, which led to a lot of Superfund sites and a lot of federal money being used to remediate soil conditions. But in this area, regardless, I think there was a project where there was an understanding of what would be constructed previously, which was a new property with below ground tanks and nice aesthetics. And staff doesn't want to compromise aesthetics as much when we know that there's other projects going on in the area as well. So that's kind of staff's point of view with regard to the above ground tanks. We're open to discussion. Obviously, there's methods to mitigate above ground tanks, placing them in a different location on the property so that they're less visible. I don't know how that affects their design. Trying to stealth them similar to what they try to do with cellular towers, where they make them look like trees or windmills or
Like a landscape or do something. Yeah.
around it, right? So we do have options, but from staff's point of view, the typical standard, and I think the applicant said it too, some of the other ones are diesel only above ground tanks. If this is a full service gas station, it wouldn't just be diesel. And so that's a clear differentiating factor as well. Just from staff standpoint, we don't pretend to dismiss the applicant's, desire to have above ground tanks, but at some point staff has to take a look at not just this property, but what else is going on in the area as well, right? So.
Speaking of the area, he did mention his neighbor has,
I can't speak to what staff approved in the past. I mean, all of those were all diesel tanks though, at that site.
Have they done anything to mitigate the aesthetics across the street, or is that like a much older project? Or
It's not a much older project. Unfortunately, I think it was built I think it was originally permitted I just had the site plan review up. It was permitted in like 2018 and constructed in like 2021. So the original approvals would have been 2018.
Okay.
From where staff sits, we would have probably preferred that they, at a minimum, screen them better so that they weren't viewable for public view, or they were at least made to look like something else. But there's not much staff can do, the current staff can do about that, because I don't think any of the staff was here at the time that went in.
What's the cost difference? He mentioned that there's a significant cost difference, and I'd be curious to know what that cost difference
It's
is.
the applicant probably has done that research. He would be
I
able to
have a
respond.
sample.
And can
I
you,
have a sample of
is
the
that-
tank
is
that
that
we're trying to
something or-
put. Can I show it to you?
yes, but we wanted to know, do you know what the cost difference is?
They have 2 cents per gallon more cost all the time. Above ground is cheaper.
What?
2
it's
cents
2
per
cents
gallon.
per gallon continuously,
Oh.
so it doesn't stop, so anytime,
All the time.
that what you
But-
said?
But
Okay.
just because when you're delivering them, they charge you less for above ground?
We have to pay the state. That one is 2 cents per gallon
Oh.
underground storage tech extra fees.
Okay.
That's 2 cents is a lot of money for,
And you don't have to pay the state if it's above ground?
yeah, then is that one only underground extra.
Is that an environmental thing or?
Yeah, is that an environmental tax?
Yes, that's help only underground tanks.
Right.
The-
Because
That's
of
two-
contamination?
Yeah, that's 2 cents is a lot of money. Then you count 2 cents, that's be a lot of money to,
What is the cost difference as far as construction goes?
but they are more safe. If any issue leaking or anything, we can see easy and fix it. Underground is be very costly.
I know the pros and cons, but what is the cost to put in the above ground versus?
Not-
Betty, are you asking construction cost?
Yeah.
Okay, The construction cost.
Is not, maybe not a big difference, but that's 2 cents is a very big difference. And the safety is the above ground is more safe for environment.
I have a question for staff. Are we discussing tonight whether we allow them to do underground and above ground, or are we discussing basically the 3,800 square foot building, and that's something that they discuss between you and them?
It's the whole project. So they're proposing the whole project revision from the prior conditional use permit. So this is really an amendment to the prior conditional use permit
Okay.
to change the building types as well as other components of the site, such as where the tanks are in relation to the site, which would be above ground versus below ground as part of this. So
I know that leak detection is instantaneous on above-ground tanks, which is really important.
Right.
And when they are in the ground, leak detection is much slower.
Yeah, and the one other things which I mentioned, the neighbor has the underground tank, just like 20-year-old, but he changed it. Change on the above ground now. Something is be better, that's why he spend more money.
Is that county?
No, he's
you're
in the
refer-
same city, Selma city, cross like I'm on the east side, he's the west side.
The west side of the 99,
Yes, Chevron
yes,
gas
southwest.
station. Chevron gas station.
like by Van Buren or Van
Yeah,
Horn?
Burn
Okay.
something name.
Okay.
Yeah, he
Sorry.
spent all money on something is a benefit, you
Okay.
know.
Now, I have another question, which you may not know, but that site was previously a gas station.
Yes.
Has that site been remediated? Have the tanks been removed?
That was my question. Yeah.
that's one of the things that needs to be confirmed as part of construction, or
Okay.
that they need to obtain proper permits from the, or provide copies of the permits that those tanks have been removed and remediated pursuant to the county's regulations.
I could be wrong, but I think that the underground tanks are now required to be double walled. Is there leak detection between the two walls?
Question.
See, that's another one I don't know. Okay.
One other things is the city or the county or the state has no issue to sell diesel or gasoline above ground. We have other project in Viola. That location is in Fresno County, and they are under construction for above ground for diesel and the gasoline, both.
And I know that the AM/PM on Mountain View and 43 has above ground tanks.
Mhm.
I don't know if that's county or if that's within our sphere or
Highland and Nebraska,
Highland, Nebraska, yeah.
that's county.
That's county.
That's county, okay, thank you.
So if we, another question for staff, if we were to consider above grounds for them, what can we add to make it aesthetically pleasing? Like, what is a good acceptable screening around it? Trees, I don't know if it's safe or acceptable around things, I'm not sure. Fencing, decorative items, things like that, that could make it not an eyesore?
I think from staff's point of view, we would want to have a discussion with the applicant about the screening to find out if there's any buffering distances that they need to have for their service trucks. Where do the service trucks need to park?
Mhm.
Is there an ability to relocate them maybe behind the building further away from the street? Something
Yeah.
to do better screening, if that's the desire of the planning commission. Staff's not opposed to that, but I think we would want to have more discussion about the screening.
So would we need like to continue this item until they
I mean,
present some sort of
we could
design?
unless,
Or,
the planning commission wanted to empower staff to work with the applicant on screening. And if there's an issue that we can't come to an agreement, it comes back to the planning commission. If you want to do a state that, screening must be acceptable to the community development department prior to, issuance of a building permit and empower staff to do that, we would understand that type of direction. But it wouldn't come back to the planning commission at that point. And so it's really up to the planning commission to either set parameters for what type of screening you guys want to see, and have staff enforce that, or continue the item and have it come back. And at the same time, we can work with the applicant. If he has building plans, we can at least work with him to have the plans submitted in the interim, and at least get maybe one or two compliance plan checks done for the building,
Mhm.
and maybe some of the site improvements as well, landscaping, what have you, to get him ahead of the game while we work out the screening issue so that we don't
Yeah.
delay him, right? Because I don't think that's staff's intent to delay
Right,
the
right.
project. We want to
Mhm.
work with him to keep the project going.
Right.
But I think this is a valid issue in terms of aesthetics in an area where like I said, staff doesn't want to necessarily want to compromise aesthetics altogether. But, you know, we're reasonable people over here. We understand that every business needs to make money, and if they can,
Yeah.
especially this day and age, right? And so if it's a 2 cents per gallon savings for them, obviously they're going to be serving or, you know, dispensing thousands of gallons. It's going to add up over time. So we understand that.
Yeah, so
Um,
that's kind of the thought is we want to work with the applicant, but we don't want to compromise aesthetics. We don't want to make an eyesore for Selma crossings. And we don't want to like set a bad precedence for other gas stations that might come to town and everybody's going to use another one as an example and say, hey, you allowed it for them, but not for us. So we want to be mindful with whatever you would recommend that basically hide those tanks completely, even though they're above ground.
Yeah, and I mean, you have not a total equity issue. I think there's somewhat of an equity issue that you have gas stations that have come to town, and maybe it's a lot size issue for the other ones that they have below ground tanks. And maybe, I don't know if they would have preferred above ground tanks, maybe they didn't have the room to do it. So, you know, I think part of the discussion may be, staff working to develop some criteria and lot size minimums for when maybe above ground tanks are acceptable along with some design standard criteria.
Yeah.
To kind of get an idea for the planning commission of what lot sizes is this feasible on? Because in town, if you have like a, I don't know, 20,000 square foot lot, because this lot's how big?
Looks more than 2 acres.
Yeah, and so they have ample room
Mhm.
to accommodate circulation, parking, fuel island, all of these things, even a drainage basin on site, right? And a lot in town, like on Second Street, they don't have room to do that type of thing. So maybe
Right.
they're more constrained to do below ground tanks. So they're kind of forced into that, right? But at the same time, we want to have some criteria for aesthetics and
Yeah.
screening and stuff. So staff can come up with some criteria. We can work with the applicant. My general preference would be more north on the property behind the building if possible.
Behind the building.
Behind the building, or if they have to stay in that location, working out landscaping or fencing or something along.
Or screening.
Yeah.
They can be painted different colors to match the environment.
And how far are they from the main streets, from Mountain View and Golden State Boulevard? Because that, to me, those are both heavily traveled roads to where an accident or something, how close would they be to taking out a tank?
They're pretty far off. Yeah.
Yeah, if it's behind the building.
They're behind the building, yeah.
And they're required to have barriers in front of them.
They'll have protective bollards
Bollards.
and things like that. That's probably a building code safety requirement.
Okay, I have one more things. I have the same location has a above ground tank already used to be still in the property, but we have never issued any accident or anything. There has the block wall around 4 feet or 4 or 5 feet. It's like same property has a above ground tank, has never any accident or any issue. We can follow block or any other things, wherever you say we can follow. Thank you.
Thank you.
The tanks are about 80 feet from the roadway. They're pretty far in,
Pretty far.
but still visible from the roadway, or when you first enter the site, they would still be, you enter the site on Mountain View, they would be right there on your left before you get to the fuel island, so.
So we can, but we can ask that they be behind the building. It seems to be the consensus of everyone.
I mean, we can work with the applicant to see if that works based on their design. I don't know what the added, I mean, maybe it's piping, maybe.
I
it's
think they're
other-
required to be so many feet away from, I think they have to be, isn't it 40, at least 40 feet? 40 or 60 or? They calculate the distance?
Calculation, how far tank to pump can go flow. That's the, whoever designed the gas pumps, they calculate where is the tank, where the pump, they maybe distance, they calculate. I don't know, they may be behind, maybe that side. It's no like anywhere I put in tank and anywhere else far is, they have limited area.
Have a sample that I'm doing right now, construction in Biola. This is the pictures of that one. This is very close to, can I show it to you?
And the other items on this conditional use permit is there's an existing wood building that's going to be made into the mini mart?
Correct. The existing building that sits up south of the main, the larger building is going to be what they're converting to the mini mart. Correct.
That's the old Darlene Tire and Oil, right? Okay.
I just have a question about the alcohol. Is it going to be behind the counter or will it be out on the shelves, on the hard liquor?
I believe it would have to be behind the counter based on the license.
Not every, it's not.
Was it approved?
They require now not reachable for the kids. I think they, not around the counter. They have some kind of ABC law, how far you have to put in.
So it won't be behind the counter, the hard liquor.
I think it has to
They,
be.
they have to follow the ABC law. They have some kind of standard where you can, not where you can put it. They, not around the cash register has some kind distance. Be, I don't know, be that is, we have to follow ABC laws too. But the one thing, that too hard to find the license. It's not available right now in the market.
Right.
It's maybe in the, I don't know when can
So
find it.
you don't have
So
that
it'll
license
probably
now?
be just beer and wine.
You don't have a license for hard liquor now?
No, they are very hard to find. They, last month this year has only allowed 5 whole county. They have a lottery system. You put in lottery, who's lucky, they can get that one. This is limited. It's no sure we that one, yes or no.
Yeah, they're real.
And it doesn't violate any of our city codes regarding sales of alcohol and proximity to other places. So I think we're okay.
They have to get another conditional use permit if they got the ABC license to do hard liquor?
So the original, and thank you for bringing that up. The staff report does note it's type 21. That's a typo. Should be type 20. Excuse me. It says type 20 and it should say read type 21. That's what was originally approved for them to allow to sell wine and spirits here. And yeah, so it's type 21 is authorized for the sale of beer, wine, and distilled spirits
Off sale.
off sale.
Okay.
That's what they originally approved. Conditional use permit that we approved
Okay.
was approved for.
Anyone else have any other questions, anything, any other information you need?
What?
Nobody has any other questions?
Yeah, I do. Talk about the water well that is on the property. So there is an existing water well that you have on your property that you will be using, and do you know if that's been tested yet?
Yes, we tested, we have approved from the state drinking water level, the pump is required is matching.
And is your intention to hook up to like the city water when it's available?
Yes, I'm be happy, but I get the estimate, they are like 1.5 million. Like, I try, talk everybody, get estimate, they charge the fees for, just give me the estimate, but that's like, I'd be appreciate if city going that way water, I'd be pay extra, whatever be, I'm be happy to, if they have chance, I pay more than my share. Every month.
Exactly.
They
Yeah.
have month.
I understand that. I did have a question though, is the You said that there's existing tanks that are already on the property that are going to need to be taken out.
No, that is above ground. Is no using.
There's no below-ground tanks there?
Oh, they already remove, any tank underground, the county force take them out. Anything no using more than year, they giving notes, hey, you have to take them out.
Right, okay.
Doesn't matter use or not, but that one is.
Those are already gone.
And if they're
Yeah,
gone, we
they-
just need a copy of the permit
Yeah,
that they
they,
were.
Okay.
I have copied that.
Yeah,
In regards to the water well, you know, whenever you propose to provide domestic service to a facility, you have to get it permitted. If it's a private well, you need to have it converted to generally what it's a community water system, public
Right,
water system.
right.
There's specific standards for testing that goes through county environmental health as well as the state water board. So they would actually get a permit to operate it as a public water system that they would also have to provide prior to occupancy of the building.
But
I
city
thought-
water doesn't go out that far yet, right?
No, city water does not go out, otherwise they would need to connect to the city water service rather than use their well. They would actually have to abandon that well on site if there was water service within.
So the 1.5 million he was talking about was bringing the water to his property.
Yes, I think water is located up at the connection of Nebraska and Golden State at the industrial park.
Okay.
And so he would have to bring it all the way down there, and whether or not it would need to be looped or not for fire flow. If you had to loop it, and you would have to continue down Mountain View to McCall and go up McCall. And so it's a considerable investment for a singular project. I think you've heard staff refer to only being able to require conditions and other exactions that are proportionally fair, and that there's a direct nexus that we can require, right? And so
Okay.
1.5 million to just extend water service down there where there's an existing well doesn't seem very feasible for the project, nor does it seem proportional, right?
That makes sense.
Well, my concern was only if there was existing tanks in the ground, if there was contamination to the water well, but it's
Correct.
already been tested.
And as part of establishing the community water system, they'll have to test that water system as well, and they'll have to have those records provided to the state for them to sign off.
Anyone want to make a motion?
Can we talk about it as the commission, right? I don't have a problem with this project at all. I've liked it every time they've brought it up. Above ground tanks, below ground tanks.
Yeah.
Makes no difference to me.
I
Um,
just suggest that they work with staff to make
Absolutely.
those aesthetic, because like I said, we don't want to make it an eyesore for the projects that are to come.
Yeah.
And are you aware of any like right of ways that are to, or not right of ways, what's the word I'm looking for? Where future streets or,
Funny you should say, I was just thinking about it because I think we listed it in the staff report. Okay, so this property is within an area where there was a feasibility done on Mountain View for roundabouts at Highway 99. So one of the conditions of approval is that the applicant reserve the right-of-way consistent with that feasibility study to allow for the alignment for the future roundabouts in that area.
Okay.
So that's included in the conditions of approval. In addition, staff has reached out to the city of Kingsburg and Fresno County because the city limits for this property run along the eastern property line. And so Golden State Boulevard is actually in Fresno County, not the city of Selma. And then right away on Mountain View is actually in the city of Kingsburg. So what we want to ensure is that both jurisdictions are aware when this applicant pulls encroachment permits that they're doing things to any other jurisdictional requirements that may be required along Mountain View or Golden State, right? I think for along Golden State, we have an MOU with the county that most development within the sphere of influence is done to city standards. So I think they'll just do a standard commercial driveway under our standards, and it would just be a permit through the county. If the county defers it to us and allows us to issue the permit, that's fine. But we just want to ensure that we're working with our other jurisdictions so that they're aware of what's going on. With Kingsburg, we've reached out to them. We received limited to no response regarding the need for an encroachment permit. They were checking with the city engineer of whether or not one was required, if there were any other development requirements needed for a driveway down on the south end of the property. So if the applicant receives in writing from Kingsburg that they don't have any additional requirements and we can issue an encroachment permit, great. However, we just want to make sure all our Ts are crossed and our Is are dotted to ensure that we don't permit something and have somebody come back later and say, why weren't we consulted?
Okay.
Okay,
I would like to make a motion to approve the CUP to construct a 3,800 square foot mini mart gas station with 6 pumps and a new canopy, with the stipulation that the applicant works with staff regarding the above-ground tanks with proper screening or make them aesthetically pleasing to staff satisfaction. If staff and the applicant disagree, it comes back to the commission for review. If they don't, we're good to go.
Let's second it.
Roll call.
Commissioner Corey,
Yes.
Commissioner Kessler,
Yes.
Commissioner Garcia,
yes.
Commissioner Stan Rich,
Yes.
Chair Salas.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Congratulations.
Okay. Our next item on the agenda is also a public hearing. It's a variance, Plan 2434, to consider a variance to increase the height requirements to 28 feet for an accessory dwelling unit above a garage located at 1304 First Street, Selma, APN 388-13213. This project will also include the approval of a notice of exemption. Staff report.
Chair Salas, fellow commissioners, thank you again. Lupe Macias, Assistant Planner, presenting for you tonight, Plan 2434 for major variance, APN 388-13213, and a company notice of exemption. For the slides here, the first slide is going to be the project location. It's going to be on the corner of John and First Street. Okay, so next slide, please. There's the aerial shot of the project location. Again, it's on the corner of First and John. And the address, I believe I stated already, 1304 First Street. Next slide, please. The purpose of this agenda, again, is to hold a public hearing to consider this major variance to increase the maximum height for an accessory structure. The major variance requests maximum height for an accessory dwelling unit, atop a garage, to increase it to 27 feet and 2 inches. Proposed project is located at 1304 First Street, where there is an existing duplex located on the subject property. Under zoning code 11-2.2, a duplex is allowed and permitted in the R1 zone. The project is proposing, again, a 3-car garage. The ADU unit, which is going to add off-street parking for each individual unit. Here we have a visual of the site plan and the elevations. To the left, you have the site plan. Left side there, here's the existing duplex, the front house and the back side here. Here's the proposed accessory dwelling ADU units. Below there, you can see the 3-car garage that is proposed, the elevations here. 27 feet, 2 inches is what it is. The maximum allowed amount for this zone or for accessory dwelling unit is 25 feet. So they're looking to increase it 2 feet, 2 inches. Slide, please. Notice of exemption has been prepared and is subject to the approval of the Planning Commission. This project is exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA, per CEQA guidelines section 15305. Class 5 consists of minor alterations in land use limitations in areas which an average slope of less than 20%, which do not result in any changes of land use or density, including but not limited to minor lot, line adjustments, side yard, and setback variances, not in resulting in the creation of a new parcel. Next slide, please. Staff again is recommending that the planning commission approve the variance application plan 2434, subject to the prepared notice of exemption and the resolution.
And if I could thank Lupe for the report, and if I could add a couple clarifications, I know there was one clarification in the staff report where it was listed, the maximum height was 16 feet. The maximum height for an accessory dwelling unit is 25 feet. So that's what we're referring to. For an accessory building such as a shed or a garage, it is 16 feet. So that was revised, I think, throughout most of the staff report and in the findings in the resolution, but it should be 25 feet. They're asking basically for a 2-foot variance. The other clarification is I think the staff report referred to one of the units as a junior ADU on site. We wanted to clarify that it is a duplex building within a single family zone, which is allowed by the zoning ordinance by right. And so you're allowed to have both a duplex and an ADU as part of the current zoning ordinance.
This is a public hearing item, so during the public hearing, I will first ask for staff's comments and reports on the item being discussed. After staff's presentation, I will then open the hearing to public testimony. I will then close the public hearing, at which time no member of the public shall address the commission unless specifically asked by a member of the commission through the chair. The planning commission will then discuss the matter amongst themselves and take action on the item being considered. At this time, I will open the public hearing. Anyone for or against the item may come forward and give their opinion to the commission. Anyone online?
Judge Ellis, there's no one in the line.
No one has come forward, so at this time, we will close the public hearing and bring the item back to the commission for discussion.
I just have a question or a concern. As long as those 3-car garage don't get converted in the future to another unit.
Yeah,
That-
they wouldn't be permitted to have another unit on site. I think from staff's point of view, this property is more or less built out once they do this. It provides an appropriate amount. I think they're required to have at least 2 of the covered parking stalls for the duplex.
Yeah.
So, at the end of the day, if they converted 2 of them into a unit, they would actually be in violation of the municipal code because they would be converting parking that they would otherwise need for the existing site. So it would become a code enforcement violation at that point.
Okay.
So with the 3 dwellings, they only need the 3 parking spaces and then whatever's on-street parking?
Technically, I think they only
only need
need
2.
2 covered, 1 for each duplex and then 1 uncovered for
For
each
the ADU.
duplex. For the ADU, I think you only need 1 uncovered parking space. You even need any parking.
Yeah,
there's
there's
Oh,
no
you don't.
requirements.
Yeah, ADUs typically, they've made the requirements very, there's a very low bar for parking because that was considered a constraint to providing housing throughout the state in other parts of the state where maybe lots are more urbanized or smaller. This is a rather big lot in town where they can accommodate this type of use, but in other cities, on-street parking, off-street parking is harder to come by. And they felt the state in order to provide more provide the ability for more people to provide housing, parking was a constraint. So with the ADU legislation that was passed, they didn't include a requirement for any off-site parking.
I don't
Um,
have a problem
is-
with it. So.
One thing that I noticed was on the drawings, the pitch of the roof is 5 and 12. If they reduced that to 4, I don't have my calculator with me. If they reduced it to 4 and 12, is that 5 and 12 to match an existing building? Or if they reduce it to a 4 and 12, is that going to eliminate the need for, is that for solar purposes?
No,
or
it's because so it can match the existing building.
Match existing building,
Correct.
okay, okay.
And typically speaking, with any accessory building on site, we want the applicant to try and match existing aesthetics as much as possible.
I think that's what we went through a few years ago.
Yeah, when we were talking about
Yeah,
ADUs, we wanted
ADUs,
them
yeah.
to match.
So I agree. I think that's fine.
Is there a firewall built into the existing building codes above the garage?
I believe the building code has standards for separation of uses, appropriate separations of uses to ensure that I mean, in reality, the garages shouldn't be occupied, right? And so they have a limited.
Cars catch fire.
Cars do catch fire, especially if you're doing work in them. And so the building code does have a separation of those type of uses built into it. I don't know exactly what it is. The contractor may be able to speak to that, whether it's a 1-hour firewall.
It's a 1 hour, right? For a
More than
garage
likely, it's
between a,
probably a 1-hour firewall. I would imagine that this structure would also probably have to be sprinklered anyway, because it's a new dwelling, so.
Yes.
that's it.
Great.
Yeah.
I can make a motion.
I move to approve, this project, Plan 24-34 as, the variance for this project, yes.
I second it.
Roll call.
Commissioner Garcia,
Yes.
Commissioner Corey,
Yes.
Commissioner Kessler,
Yes.
and Commissioner Sandridge,
Yes.
and Chair Salas.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Okay, that's been approved. There's nothing else on the agenda unless staff has anything they want to share with commission.
We won't see you guys, so I hope everybody had a happy Thanksgiving, happy holidays, happy New Year. I think our next regular meeting will be January 27th. At that time, I think the only item we have on the agenda would be selection of officers, reorganization of the commission, unless we have any other applications currently in process, which I don't believe we do that take that time frame. Oh, we do have one that might. So we might have one item for that planning commission meeting.
Okay,
Yeah.
meeting adjourned.
Yeah.
Have
Happy
things
holidays,
worked
thank
out
you.
with Curry Cantina?
Yeah, that's the one that they may be coming, so.
Okay.
Um,
Thank you, guys. That's what I think. Yeah.